So most people come to me looking for progress. They want tactics. They want action. You probably want to know what to do next to move the needle. And I get it. That's exactly what I wanted when I was stuck too. So here's the problem. Progress is the top of the pyramid. We're going to be talking about this today. You probably can't see it. Right there. Yeah. Um, and most people are trying to build the top floor before the foundation's even poured. So I'm Spencer Combs, the Defiant Coach, and this is Spencer Uncensored, episode 113. This is where we talk about the real reason your business isn't giving you the profit, the productivity, or even the purpose you'd hope for. And it's probably not even what you think it is. So before we get into it, I want to give some credit where it's due. The core metaphor in this episode came from two people that I genuinely respect. So I first heard the idea here, and we're going to be talking about roots and fruits. Okay. The first time I ever heard it was actually from Harv Eker. I was at a Millionaire Mind Intensive, right? So Harv Eker is the author of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. If you haven't read that, probably should go take a look at it. Now, the idea that what you see above the ground always reflects what's happening below the ground. That landed for me in a way I couldn't necessarily shake because, quite frankly, it's really simple enough, and that's how our brain works. If we complicate things, a complicated or confused mind will always say no, right? So we're going to refuse that kind of thing, and so the clarity was pretty easy to grasp, right? And then I'd say a week or two ago, I was watching a video and I saw Myron Golden pop up. If you don't know who that is, go find his content because if you don't know him, you should know him. He put out some biological language to it, and I'd never heard it before, right? So he used the word gravitropism, the way roots are literally programmed to grow toward pressure, and then toward the resistance, that kind of thing, toward the hard stuff, right? And then there's phototropism. That's the way the canopy reaches toward the light. So if you think about the way a tree grows, we're talking about roots and fruits, right? I should be saying roots and fruits. And then the canopy is the top portion of it. That's the fruit portion. It's going to grow towards the light. That's phototropism. So there's two directions, and most trees, if not all trees, do both of those things simultaneously from the moment the seed is planted. Now that combination, Harv's principle and Myron's biology language, that's the frame for everything I want to share with you today. So what I'm adding to it, though, is the Defiant application. What it means for your business, your patterns, and specifically why the thing you came here looking for might not be the first thing you actually need. So here's what almost always happens when someone comes into my world, right? For the first time, when they first come to me, right? You'll show up looking for progress. Progress. So if you're not familiar with this little, let me see if I can get this to, it won't do, right? But this at the very top, this is from our book, by the way. If you don't know what that graph is, let me show you. Comes from Momentum and Mastery. Comes from this book, right? So if you understand mastery, people come in from the top. They start talking about progress. They want better systems, better marketing, more clients, more revenue, a team that functions without them. They want the top of the pyramid. They want the fruit. And that makes complete, total sense because progress is the visible part. It's the measurable part. It's what everyone around them is probably talking about. Like when you get together with other business owners or you start commiserating on what you're doing, you're almost always going to be talking about progress. So I always start off with that conversation because that's where it starts. And then within about 20 minutes of a real conversation, we're not going to be talking about progress anymore. We're going to be talking about the building block that's under it. We're going to be talking about performance. Now, performance is the systems and the beliefs underneath it. And then we go a little bit deeper because we keep talking. We're going to end up going into the power building block. That's accountability. That's resource stewardship. And then we keep going deeper. We start talking about priorities and then purpose. And by the time we get to the root of all of it, by the time we get to drift to drive, we're nowhere near the tactical conversation that you brought in originally. So here's what's interesting about all that. That's always the conversation that changes things, though. It's not the tactics, it's the root work. Most people want the fruit without the root. And cultural gravity keeps it that way because tactics feel productive and root work feels uncomfortable. So let me show you what I mean. The qualified champions framework, the mastery section of the unshakable framework I was just telling you about that comes out of momentum and mastery. It has 5 building blocks and they stack like a pyramid. So at the very top is progress. It's flexibility on the mindset side, feedback on the mechanics side, right? So flexibility and feedback. This is fruit. This is what everyone wants. And then just below that is performance, belief, and systems. So belief is the mindset, systems is the mechanics. The engine, this is, without this, progress is just a conversation. If we're struggling with making or performing, then we're going to end up having to talk about power. And that's accountability and resource stewardship. This is going to be where the tree actually breaks the ground, where the underground work starts becoming visible. So you're tracking with me? And then below power is priorities. That's the focus on a plan, still mostly underground, still invisible to the outside world. And at the very base, the deepest root, or the bottom of the pyramid, is going to be purpose. That's commitment and outcomes. It's the foundational question of why any of this actually matters. So underneath all of that, underneath the pyramid itself, those 5 building blocks is the soil. Drift to drive. This is the movement work. It's the part that gets us into momentum. It's the activation layer, the place where a seed decides to become a tree. So the pyramid doesn't work from the top down. It really only works from the bottom up. You can't build the fruit floor without the foundation beneath it. So here's what Myron was discussing that I'm going to build on here. When a seed is planted, it immediately begins growing in 2 directions at the same time, not one after the other, simultaneously, right? We've established that. The roots push downward through darkness, through resistance, through soil that doesn't want to move. The term for this is gravitropism. The root is literally programmed by its biology to move toward gravity, toward pressure, toward the hard stuff. Not away from it, toward it. That's not a malfunction, folks. That's the design. At the same time, the canopy pushes upward towards light and eventually toward fruit. That's phototropism. It's the visible part, the part everyone wants to talk about. And here's the part that Harv has been saying for years and that Myron put biological language to. Those 2 movements aren't in conflict. They're in contract. That's worth saying it again. Those 2 movements, going to the dark stuff, the deep work, and the fruit, or the part we get to see, those 2 are not in conflict from each other. They're in contract. The depth below is the only reason the freedom above is structurally even possible. The fruit doesn't come before the root. I'm just telling you, ever. So here's, again, cultural gravity enters the picture because cultural gravity is the storm. It's that constant, external, and completely indifferent to your intentions, by the way. Your plan, right? It doesn't matter how hard you're working. Most people are going to white knuckle through the storm with no root system, nothing holding it up, just grip and willpower. And for a while, that might work until the storm outlasts your grip. And then you snap. Now, anytime I'm talking about this, like at the Unshakable Weekend event or anytime I'm talking about flexibility specifically, I always like to talk about a palm tree and a hurricane. I got a whole story around that. A palm tree doesn't survive because it's stronger than the wind. It survives because it's flexible above the ground and anchored below. Sometimes you'll see a palm tree that's bent all the way down sometimes, and then it just comes back up. Not because the storm stopped, because the roots held and the structure was flexible. See, flexibility above the ground is only possible because of depth below. The bend is not weakness. It is the evidence of roots. Here's a question to think about right now. What does it take to break you? Most people don't have a feedback loop, by the way. Let's talk about this. This is a really good topic. Most people don't have a feedback loop. And you're thinking, well, okay, fine, I get it, flexibility, all that. But help me, Spencer. What do I need to do to actually create progress, create the fruits? What most people actually have is not the feedback loop. They have what I call a validation loop. So here's the difference. A feedback loop, which is what you want, asks what actually happened and what does it tell me? A validation loop asks what information confirms that what I'm already doing is actually working. One is built for reality. One is built on comfort. Cultural gravity loves a validation loop. It's going to keep you looking for evidence that your current approach is fine and that you just need to do more of it. Post more, try it harder, right? Try harder at it. It keeps you at the top of the pyramid adjusting the fruit while the roots stay shallow. If you're looking for real progress, like unshakable progress, like what we talk about in Momentum and Mastery, it's only going to come from a feedback loop that's willing to go all the way down. Not just what I do need to do differently, but what is the pattern underneath the doing that keeps producing the same result? Most people aren't running a feedback loop. They're just running a validation loop. And cultural gravity is the one feeding it. So here's something I want you to sit with. Going from mediocrity to peak performance isn't about solving your problems. It's going to be about trading them up for better quality ones. It's probably going to be on my tombstone. Like, it would be cool if it was. Life is an endless pursuit of better quality problems. I say it all the time. Think about it, right? Survivors and mediocre performers have the same problems repeating over and over just to stay right where they're at. Stay sane. Qualified champions constantly level up their problems. Their problems get bigger, and so does their capacity to handle them. I heard Blair Singer one time say, big problems only happen to little people. The person stuck at 10,000 a month has a visibility problem, right? The person at 50,000 has a team problem. The person at 200,000 has a systems problem. The problems are different. The pattern of upgrading never stops. And this is only possible when you're running a real, true feedback loop. Tony Robbins, I call him by his first name like we're friends or something. Feel like we are. No, I followed his work for years. He said this. He said it this way. When we lose, we tend to ponder. When we win, we tend to party. The qualified champion is going to do both. They analyze the wins the same way they analyze the losses. That's what makes progress compound. So one more thing on this. A good indicator that you're taking enough action is the number of mistakes you're making, by the way. Mistakes are proof that you're trying, that you're taking action. The person making no mistakes, like none at all, is also making no moves. That's not safety. That's drift. We talk about that a lot in the book. Success accelerates when you can fail fast and then fail often, but only when you have the feedback loop in place to learn from it. So without the loop, failing fast just means losing faster. So with the loop, though, it means compounding faster. Tim Grover said it this way, and if you don't know who that is, go look him up too. Okay, you should probably get to know Tim Grover, and I want to make sure he gets the credit. Anyone can learn to compete. Not everyone knows how to win. That's strong. That's strong language, right? Anyone can learn to compete. Not everybody knows how to win. The difference is the ability to adjust. They're the ones that can read the feedback. These are the qualified champions, right? The ones to adapt the approach while staying rigid on the result. That's what flexibility actually means inside of the progress block. So here's what I want you to take away from this specific episode. If you haven't subscribed, by the way, make sure you subscribe. If you come here looking for tactics, for the next thing to do to move the needle, I'm not going to apologize for taking you somewhere deeper because the tactics aren't usually the problem. Most of you already know what to do. We just don't do them, right? The question is why you're not doing it consistently, why the same ceiling keeps coming back, why the progress you make doesn't actually hold. The answer is almost never at the level where the symptom appears. Revenue problems are usually visibility problems. Team problems are usually standards problems, right? Progress problems are usually root problems. And the root work, the drift to drive work, the purpose and priorities and power work, that's the uncomfortable direction that gravitropism, growing toward the pressure, that's where it's going to happen. So if you're in a season right now where things feel slower than you want, where the effort isn't matching the result yet, I'm going to ask you to consider something. You may not actually be stuck. You might just be rooting. The roots don't make noise. They don't show up on the dashboard. They just go deeper. And every inch of depth below the surface is an inch of stability that will hold you when the storm comes. Not if, when. You're probably not stuck. You're just rooting. And the depth you're building right now is the only reason the fruit above ground will hold when it does come. Here's the diagnostic question I want you to carry for this particular week. Where in your business or your life are you trying to grow fruit on a tree that doesn't have enough roots? Is it progress you're chasing without the performance underneath it? Is it the performance you're building without the power? Like the real accountability for your resources? That should be what's anchoring it. Or is it something even deeper? A purpose that's never been defined, a drift to drive moment that's never fully happened. Wherever the gap is, that's not going to be failure. That's a root that needs to go deeper. And that's exactly what the Defiant Assessment we do at unshakablesecrets.com, by the way. That's what it's designed to show you. So head on over there, unshakablesecrets.com. It's designed to show you which pattern's running and the root work that probably needs to be done next. It's about 3 to 5 minutes. I'll drop the link in the description, but it's pretty easy to remember, unshakablesecrets.com. So make sure you subscribe now if you haven't yet here on the channel. Hit the button below, share it. I'd love it. And by the way, only share it to the people that you want to be hanging out with, okay? Because next week we're gonna keep building new pattern work, new arena content, new tools that turn root work into real results. I'm Spencer Combs, the Defiant Coach. Stay defiant, keep rooting, and we'll see you next Wednesday.